Welcome to High on Sci-Fi, a bi-weekly podcast from Jackraw Productions. The following podcast may contain strong language and adult themes, and as such may not be suitable for younger listeners. If you have any questions, comments, or a specific topic you'd like to hear the panel discuss, or would simply like a shout out, find us on Facebook by searching High on Sci-Fi. Episode 4, Christmas Specials, recorded Tuesday the 2nd of January 2018. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus. What am I missing? Anyone?
We're just listening to you, Stu.
I think I've got that covered, haven't I? Anyway, yes, so it's High on Sci-Fi. We are back. It is the new year. It is 2018. We are excited as hell for a year of sci-fi coming up. Oh my gosh, there is so much coming up this year, especially on the Marvel movies scene, that we're very excited about. Sean is with me, of course, as always.
Hello, I'm here. Hello, and Happy New Year. And Eid is one you forgot, by the way.
Eid, yes. Well done.
Happy
and on the phone, live via satellite link-up, as we like to say, is Helen Payne.
Hi guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. So it's worth mentioning right from the off, we are going to be discussing spoilers in this episode for the Doctor Who Christmas special. Mm-hmm. If you have not watched it, you may wish to either plug your ears or live with spoilers. Your choice. But we did promise a Christmas special edition. And of course we were just discussing before we started recording about another classic Christmas special, weren't we, Sean?
Yes.
One of your favourites.
Oh, it's a 1 in a million, isn't it? The Star Wars Holiday Special. Wow. What a train crash, and spectacularly derailed as well, I should say. Wow.
But it didn't destroy the franchise.
Very nearly, I think.
Did it?
Did you see Mark Hamill's face? Heavily made up. He looked like he was made of plastic.
But there was a reason for that, wasn't there, Helen?
Yeah, he had a car crash, didn't he? Not that long before they started filming.
Was that before the holiday special then?
Yeah. So if you watch it really, well, not really carefully, but if you watch the bits where, as you say, he's got the really heavily made up face.
Yeah.
He's actually got his hair combed over in a certain direction.
Yes,
and it's to hide the scarring. So, not good.
I knew he'd had the car accident. I knew it was before Empire Strikes Back, but I wasn't sure whether. So it's nice to have that cleared up. Thanks. I noticed though that to keep it not looking quite so out of place, I think they heavily made up Carrie Fisher as well to try and even it as well. But that might have been other reasons. I think
she was just always heavily made up. I mean, it was, what does it say about makeup? The heavier the base, the prettier the face.
Do they really?
Have you not heard that phrase before, Helen?
No.
Right. I've heard that somewhere. Well, on a positive note, you could say that's because you don't need to. Oh, aren't I being sweet?
It'd be lovely.
It must be a New Year resolution or something.
I'll give you that tenner later, Stu, yeah?
If it's New Year's resolution, I wonder how long that's going to last.
Well, yeah, probably till about 5 minutes' time, I would have thought.
Lucky.
So the Star Wars Christmas. So let's give a bit of a background for anybody who might not have seen it. Mm-hmm. So it came out. It was it 2 years after A New Hope?
I've got a feeling it wasn't that long actually after. I think it might have been 78. And actually, because we were saying about it just before you started the recording, that it was actually intended to be for Thanksgiving.
You did say, yeah.
But I think it ended up running into, they used it for Christmas as well, before obviously they pulled the plug.
Mm. Was it actually aired in the end? I don't know, because it's obviously been, floating around in various forms in sort of bootleg versions and such. Was it actually broadcast?
I believe it was, and actually I've got a couple of notes with me because I thought this might crop up. So I have made some notes on this, and looking at this, it only got one viewing in the US on television. I think.
Okay, I'm assuming you don't mean only one person saw it.
Only one person tuned in. Yeah. No, only one station effectively showed it, and there was only one
broadcast.
One case of this happening. Yeah, one broadcast, and I believe it was CBS that did that. But like you say, they did try and market it in VHS, and obviously has been taken off of CBS's archives, and it only exists now in VHS format.
Yeah. Or on YouTube.
Or on YouTube, yeah, exactly.
Is it actually on YouTube then? I haven't searched it, I will confess.
Well, there are at least varied clips of it you can watch. Whether the whole thing's on there or not, I would be willing to bet somebody's put a version of it on YouTube there somewhere.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice to watch
next
Christmas.
I would not use that phrase in the Star Wars Holiday Special in the same sentence. Nice. Oh dear.
Good for a laugh. So let's have a talk about what it actually consisted of. So it's been a very long time since I saw it, but it does sort of stick in the memory a bit like a toothache. It was Chewbacca and his family. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think the basic premise was Chewbacca needed to get home to Kashyyyk because it was Life Day. And it's this thing that the Wookiees celebrate every year, so it's a bit like Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever one they decided they were going to celebrate. Who knows? So he is in this panic because he needs to get back and celebrate. And meanwhile, on the planet, he's got his family. I think it's his wife, and I know it's definitely his wife and his son. I can't remember who the third Wookiee is. And they basically their house gets invaded by stormtroopers looking for rebels. That's, I think, the basic plot.
That's as far as the narrative actually goes. The rest of it is all a big mishmash of awful rubbish. Well, though I was going to say the way it was supposed to, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Helen, but was it not supposed to link in originally with the plans for Return of the Jedi? That instead of it being on the Endor Forest Moon planet with the Ewoks, it was going to be what was the name of the planet? Sorry,
Kashyyyk,
where the Wookiees were. I think was that not the case?
That's right. Yeah, George Lucas's original plan was in Jedi he was going to have the Wookiees rise up in rebellion against the Empire, and I actually can't remember the reason why he went for Ewoks instead. I don't know if it was budget or if he was told he'd sell more toys, maybe. Or Hasbro, would sell more toys.
There's a profit to be made.
It's probably to do with budget because let's just get make some very small costumes rather than really big ones and to maintain them.
And yeah, that's one of the problems, isn't it, with the Thanksgiving special is the fact that you compare the other Wookiees to Chewbacca and they look so bad.
I'm not sure who the other one is. It's either his... it seems like the granddad sort of figure, this old... And it gets really weird with him at one point during the special. It's really odd.
Okay. Granddad gets a bit weird and odd.
Oh, yeah, no,
not in an
really,
inappropriate...
Yes.
Oh, my...
Yes, it gets really, really weird. So what are the sections that happen then? Obviously, we have the opening part, I think, with Han Solo and Chewbacca getting away from the Empire, I believe. Is that right, Helen?
Yeah, I think that's right. So it starts off with them in this mass panic of avoiding the Empire, and then all of a sudden Chewie says, "Oh, but hang on a minute, I need to get home because it's Life Day, and this is a very important day for us." And then there's like a sequence, I believe, of you see the family, the Wookiee family, just doing what they do and having fun. And then there's this whole, as I say, this side story with rebels that are hiding on the planet, or they're doing something, obviously, that the Empire doesn't like, and so the stormtroopers are sent into their home and into the Wookiees' home, and then they start ransacking the place. And then I believe Chewie and Han get there in the nick of time and basically get rid of the stormtroopers. And then there's a really weird bit at the end of it where they sing. Because I know that's where they get Princess Leia in. She just starts singing, and it's the moment where the light faded from Harrison Ford's eyes when he realised that, what the hell am I doing?
Had he not read a script at that point then?
Probably not. Only the scenes he was in thought, what is this? Why are we... Oh, no.
So, Helen, I know you're very active on a lot of Star Wars forums. So there's a question. No, there's a question I need to ask about this, and then we'll move on to something a little bit more divisive. Although I think maybe Sean's got a question as well.
Oh,
but
gosh, okay.
Being so active on the forums, is there anyone out there that considers the Star Wars Christmas special to be canon?
Yes. Yeah, there is. Yes. Yeah, there's. They don't like it. But there are some out there who really champion it as the stepping stone between A New Hope and actually between A New Hope and Empire.
Wow.
But there's also there are a lot of people out there that. Is this what? Sorry.
Even the singing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but it is kind of that thing where I think it's. Everyone knows it's embarrassing, but they don't want to let go of it either, because it's still part of the history. But interestingly, nobody really, I say nobody because that's lumping everyone in together. But there's a lot of people who don't feel the same about the prequels and would be quite happy to dismiss the prequels, and they never existed. So this is that kind of grey area.
It's more canon than the prequels.
Yeah.
For some people, yes.
Wow.
One thing I would like to say, and you mentioned just now about how it's embarrassing. I noticed in your description both times you've spoken about the plot in inverted commas, because as far as I'm concerned, there is no plot really to speak of. You've been brushing over how embarrassing it is, because if you've not really seen it, Stu, yes, I was quite right in saying there's the little bits with the Empire coming into the Wookiee's house, and obviously Han and Chewie trying to get back for Life Day. But Helen's missed out all the best bits. I'm sorry, you have.
I have, haven't I?
You have. There's a sequence before the stormtroopers come in where the mother, whose name I've forgotten, she's first talking to Mark Hamill over some sort of video phone, asking where Han and Chewie are, and he said, "Oh, but you look so pretty." It's a big hairy Wookiee, and say, "Oh, don't look like that. Cheer up. You look so. You give us a beautiful smile." It's a creepy, beautiful smile at that. She then goes, I think, there's a cooking show. I think B. Arthur, some sort of American celebrity, appears in it as well, doing some very strange cooking program with about 3 arms and was sort of zebra food box away and saying how you've got to whip stir, and it goes on for far too long, and there's no end in sight as to what this is and when it's going to stop. It's an awful section. And then the kid, the Wookiee, is watching these tiny miniature people who are really badly green screened onto the table.
The monsters! Yes, I'd forgotten about them.
Dancing around. That's really odd. There's another bit later on where I think B. Arthur appears again and is doing a demonstration of how to... It turns to a really weird sort of DIY show about how to wire in your computer console and things, and it goes on for far too long. I'm thinking... For the first thing, it's a non-existent computer console. I don't need information about how it works, and there's no jokes in this. There's no punchline. There's nothing going on. But the best It's with the weird, I'm going to say grandpa Wookiee, for want of a way
The
of
creepy
it.
one.
This guy comes in to talk to him and says, "Oh, hi, happy life day," and brings gifts and things, and gives him a sort of head visor thing to wear.
Mm-hmm.
With, I don't know which actress it is, if it's a famous American actress or not, I don't know. But she was head and shoulders this day, just talking to the camera, ultimately, and supposedly talking to the grandpa, sort of engaging him in some sort of, I'm going to say at least erotic sort of situation, and he's got a very kind of pleased look on his face the whole time as well. It's very, oh yes, oh that's good, isn't it? You're enjoying it. It's really odd.
Sort of VR porn headset.
Well, one better way of putting it, yeah, more or less. It's really odd. And then the whole thing with go on, Helen.
Yeah, sorry. No, go on, you carry on.
And then I was going to say the whole thing with the Empire when they come in later on, then obviously Han Chewie come along. There's a cartoon part of it as well, right in the middle of it.
Actually, yeah. I was going to mention that bit.
Yeah.
I'll just mention it very, very quickly because that is one of the highlights. Actually, it's the first time you see Boba Fett.
Yes, it is.
So so that bit's not bad. But like you say, it's very strange that you jump from live action actors, puppets to a completely animated section.
Yeah, we think jumping around from puppets, live action, dancing, Jefferson Starship. That's right, Jefferson Starship turned up and do a song right in the middle of it as well.
Oh, we gotta love a bit of Jefferson Starship.
It's really weird. The whole thing is disturbingly weird.
I'm not sure that they knew what they wanted. I think that was one of the issues because it goes from being almost like a TV show to a skit show or variety performance.
Yes.
Then, as you say, then they get the cartoons, and then you've got the section with... that was another thing I was going to mention of what they didn't do very well. I mean, obviously, all of it. But is they didn't include subtitles for the Wookiees.
Yes,
now,
that's true.
I know in the film you don't have subtitles for Chewbacca, but then it doesn't matter because you've got the other characters telling you effectively what he's thinking or saying.
Yes.
Whereas in this, you've got sections with no English-speaking characters, and you've literally just got the Wookiees in their living room talking to each other, and no subtitles. So you're kind of thinking, oh, okay, well, I have no real idea what you're saying, but I'm going to guess it's about this.
What are they saying? Whatever you'd like them to say. You can have a lot of fun making up interesting subtitles, I imagine, for that.
Oh, yeah. And given with all the stuff that Grandad's watching, it's, strange.
Yeah, very creepy.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So, moving on to a more recent, this year's big Christmas special news. The Doctor Who Christmas special, of course, Sean. So this point, listeners, this is where your spoilers are really going to come in. So if you haven't watched it, I'd switch off now until you have watched it. Then do make sure you listen to it again and see if you agree. Sean, did you like it?
Yeah, it was all right.
Okay, not the massive enthusiasm I was expecting.
I mean, I have got pretty low standards when it comes to... Not quite as low as Star Wars Christmas Special I might have, of course. But low expectations, I should say, of what to expect from the Doctor Who Christmas Special. When they brought back Doctor Who, it was really, apart from the Feast of Stephen, the first time that there'd been really any Christmas in Doctor Who, really. Apart from the famously William Hartnell turns to the camera at the end of the episode of the Feast of Stephen, in the middle of Mission to the Unknown. What's the one after that? I think it's The Chase. And says, and instantly at home, Merry Christmas.
Okay,
so,
nice.
In the middle of right at the end of a proper in-canon Doctor Who episode does that. I think there are a few Doctor Who fans who dismiss that. But anyway, the point I was making was that since they brought it back in 2005, they've done the Christmas specials, which were always a bit silly and a bit fun anyway. Some better than others, but ultimately you can't expect too much from it. Now, because this was also ostensibly Stephen Moffat's last episode, well, at least last as showrunner, hopefully he'll still provide some writing for new series. I don't think he will, because having done the whole thing.
I hope not.
Well, it's all personal preference. People think that Rusty Davis is, the saviour of Doctor Who and absolutely brilliant. And yes, he did very well in bringing it back. I much prefer Stephen Moffat's style. It's much darker. Some people could argue more complex, but that's, again, personal preference. I think Stephen Moffat has been the more consistent as a good writer and bringing new ideas, looking at interesting themes, and just being more creative in terms of what the Doctor looks at. I mean, there are characters that Stephen Moffat's created, monsters, like the Weeping Angels. I would say the Silence, actually. They were just kind of the Weeping Angels, but for sight rather than anything else. But he's done more to create more interest and go to slightly more dark and slightly more interesting places. Whereas Rusty Davis, it was a bit campy, and that's fine in its own right as well. But the best episodes, I think, from that era, Rusty Davis era, are also Stephen Moffat's writing. It has its place, I think. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Anyway, but the Christmas special, because it's his last episode, he obviously wants to do something that was going to make a bit of a mark, not a massive one, but just a kind of a nice closing of those chapters, I think, rather than going for the really camp Christmassy stuff that we've seen of yesteryear.
Yeah.
Which I was fine with. I'm happy with that. I don't mind the Christmassy stuff. I don't watch the Christmas episodes because it's not really my thing. It's a bit too heavy on Christmas stuff. I love Christmas, don't get me wrong, I do love Christmas, but Doctor Who's not always Christmas.
See, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I look at like the David Tennant ones, and particularly the first David Tennant one where he just regenerated.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it as that camp or that silly. Yet you look at the return of Dr. Mysterio from last year, and how utterly shit was that?
But it's a progression. It's a progression from that first one. I think they were just dipping their toe in the water to see what it would be like, because it was the end of the Christopher Eccleston era when they first brought it back. And then after that, you see it gets progressively much more silly.
I agree.
I'm not having a go at that either. And that can be fun. It's Christmas time. Have a bit of a laugh. It's about a man who lives in a box and goes out into time and space. Don't take it all that seriously, please. This has come from somebody who loves the programme. But on the actual episode itself, yeah, good, nice, did a good story. It wasn't Heaven Sent. I love that episode, Heaven Sent, of the new run of Doctor Who. It's been my favourite episode. So it didn't quite cap that. It was good to see David Bradley doing William Hartnell's Doctor.
Yes, well, especially after an adventure in time and space.
He did so well in that, and he deserved to take on. If anybody's going to do that role again, it was him, and he did a fantastic role of it.
Although I felt they over-egged the whole misogyny of the time. I thought they leapt too heavily on that.
Yeah, but do you think that they were doing that for a specific reason because of a certain 13th Doctor? They're trying to get through to certain areas of the fandom.
Yeah, it's almost like the Doctor then had to regenerate into a woman to apologise for the first Doctor. In a way.
But also the fact that I think it was perhaps it was Moffat's way of saying to the audience, look, whether or not you like it, this is going to happen. This is the century we live in. It's not like this anymore. And this is how we're going to progress things going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly why it was there. And it's... I don't think they did a fair amount of misogyny bashing, and that's absolutely fine. You should do.
I just felt it was heavy-handed. It wasn't... It lacked finesse.
I thought it was more tongue-in-cheek, personally.
I actually laughed a lot at those sections, really, and like laughed out loud with the, because it got to a certain point where you were like, oh, come on now, yes, we realise you put another joke in. Oh, look, there's another one. Yes, thank you for smacking it in our faces. But some of it, especially the speaking of smacking, the joke that David Bradley's daughter, made about the smacking of the bottom. Oh my goodness! I just thought that was brilliant.
Yes, that was funny.
That was the one thing actually that I thought was a bit out of place. I thought I can't really see William Hartnell saying that, but I know that the purpose that it served, and you're completely right in what you're saying, Helen. I just didn't think it was really in keeping with Hartnell. I don't think he was that much of a misogynist. Yes, he was a misogynist, but I don't think he'd ever suggest, even about his own granddaughter, I don't think he's ever going to put you across my knee or anything like that.
Actually, that would be weird, wouldn't it?
That would be extremely weird.
Well, only because we see it in a different light in this day and age, and that I think was part of the humour in of itself. Back then, it wasn't seen as a sexual thing at all, just as chastising.
I think in some areas of society it would have been. That's for sure.
It didn't happen for those reasons, but I don't think it was perceived by the general public in that way.
I don't know. You look at sketches in things like merely a decade on, in things like Benny Hill and things like that, and that sort of thing is very much of that. So 10 years isn't all that long to really establish it as being slightly more erotic than a decade before. I just think it's a bit more open at that point because you've had a massive cultural shift towards the end of the 1960s and suddenly into the 1970s. It's things were much more risque.
That's what I'm saying, though. It was pre that shift.
Pre that shift, yeah, but I think to suddenly create an entirely different notion on something I would imagine it would have been there before. I don't know, I was born in 1987, so I have absolutely no idea. I wasn't there to say, but I just feel...
Oh, you young'un.
But yeah, what did we think about the story in of itself, then?
Well, that's the thing, is that I didn't think it was Stephen Moffat's strongest. It was all. It was, like I said, a nice closing of the book. Nice to have David Bradley involved. Mark Gatiss did an alright job. He's been in Doctor Who once before already, though, so I thought it was a little bit. But yeah, I think he's bowing out from Who now as well.
He's been in Doctor Who a few times now, hasn't he?
Yes.
It was Danny Boy in 2 episodes. The fighter pilot, although that was only his voice.
Yes, that's true.
He played the guy who made himself younger.
Dr. Lazarus.
Dr. Lazarus.
I've only seen that episode once. It was dreadful.
It was pretty awful. But yeah, so he has been in, but he's written a lot of Doctor Who.
He has, and I think he's moving away from it now. So.
Can I say, for the record, within 30 seconds of him being on screen, I knew who he was.
I started to suspect as well, it was a moustache. I thought, that's a little bit reminiscent. Yeah. I then dismissed it.
It wasn't the moustache for me, it was the fact that they didn't give his name.
Oh, right, yeah. I can see what you mean by that.
That instantly.
Yeah.
Right, so he's got a name that we're going to recognise then. And
yeah.
Well, who could it be, but...
I have to say, I didn't know who he was, but I had that kind of... Like you said, the fact that they didn't reveal a name and he was only ever referred to as the captain, I was thinking, well, he's obviously got to be something pretty important. But I must admit, I didn't. It was only when obviously he did reveal his name that I went, oh.
Actually,
so yeah, I was a bit slow.
There wasn't quite the noise I made, but I heard his name. I was a bit sort of, all right. It would be, wouldn't it? Come on.
You should go, no, Moffat, no!
It wasn't quite bad enough for that. It wasn't a kind of George Lucas moment of, what are you doing? It was like, I can see that, but it just felt a bit padded that way. It didn't seem necessary to do that, you know? It could have just been a nice character in of itself, and why not? Doctor Who does that very well, looking at new characters. It doesn't have to necessarily be who it was.
But do you not think that some of the audience members might have felt a little bit cheated if it was just a random captain?
Oh, tough luck. That's storytelling for you, isn't it? Especially in a story that's based in all of time and space. The likelihood of bumping into that one person. I'm sorry, but for narrative sake, for the sake of a massive coincidence, I'm sorry, get over it.
Absolutely. I mean, what did you think of the whole thing? We haven't asked you if you liked it yet, Helen.
No, I did actually. I did really like it. I agree that there wasn't really much in the way of strong plot. It felt more to me like they were just trying to tie up the loose ends with Capaldi's Doctor, and obviously bring in a little bit of nostalgia with William Hartnell's Doctor. And like you say, played superbly by David Bradley. I mean, he was the one that I focused on the most. Whenever he was on the screen, I was just mesmerised by him, and I liked seeing his TARDIS. That was lovely. But yeah, in terms of, I mean, I did really like it. I think that it was that sort of because it was a Christmas special. It didn't really need to have a strong plot. And it didn't bother me that it didn't have one. Yeah. I was intrigued enough by the Glass Woman and going to find the Dalek that hated all the Daleks, whose name I'm afraid I've forgotten at the moment. Is it Rust? I know he called him Rust.
Rusty.
But
that's all we know him as. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'm right in saying that, Anton.
But the one thing that I really, really loved about that episode, and you might say it's a little bit twee, and especially because it's Christmas, but I actually liked the fact that he brought them back to the trenches when they had the ceasefire. And, the Christmas when they were singing to each other, and then they came out and they played football. And the thing is, we've seen it so many times before in other programs, either documentaries or watching a program that's been, specifically made about World War One with this. So most people would know that happened in history. Yeah. But to see Moffat do it in a Doctor Who episode was really nice, and that felt very Christmassy to me, and it did make me smile.
Well, funny enough, I thought a while ago that if they're going to do a Christmas episode, that's what they should do. They've got a time machine, this perfect opportunity. I would have done it, personally, if I was writing, I would have done it slightly differently. I would have thought the obvious thing to do would be to have the Doctor see the First World War for the first time, perhaps, if he's never been there. Obviously, he would have heard of it, but actually seeing it, the amount of slaughter and pointless massacre of men, done by their own side, despite some people's more recent attempts at rewriting history. I'm sorry, that is what happened. It was absolutely disgusting. It would be nice to see a Doctor having a bit of perhaps turmoil and a moment of, you know what, I'm done with you humans. You can't even look after yourselves. You're not only busy fighting amongst yourselves in terms of different nations, but you can't even look after those individual nations. You know what, I'm done with you. I've spent so long trying to protect you people. You're a bigger threat to yourself than anything out in space. I'm done. Walk away, and then you could have that as a moment of hope and a finishing end of the episode. That was in my mind where it could have gone. So doing it at all, I'm fine with. It was all right, and I agree with what you're saying, Helen. It wasn't a massive game changer episode with massive revelations. It didn't have to be. It was a Christmas episode. You can forgive that a bit. The only thing, actually, I found it a bit annoying that Dalek was back at the end. I kind of thought, oh, we don't need another Dalek. Leave the Daleks for a while, I think.
It felt very much shoehorned in, I thought.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
Shoehorned in. And interestingly enough, I was watching it with my partner Catherine, and when they were on the surface of the planet, and you've got all the actual Daleks running around and leaping at people's faces, she actually thought it was the dream crabs from the Christmas special a couple of years ago.
I did it first as well. I thought, oh no, hang on a minute, that looks more like.
They didn't seem like actual Daleks. In fact, she even said that Rusty didn't sound like a Dalek.
It did have a more distinct voice. I know what you mean. I don't know if that was to distinguish the fact that this is Rusty the Dalek that hates Daleks, so therefore has to have a very different voice.
But they've really heavily recapped on who he was. I thought, yeah, I know. Okay, stop it. I'm not stupid. Okay, never mind.
Although that said, I mean, for me, I've not seen the last season with Pearl Mackie. I haven't seen that season at all yet.
It wasn't in that season. It was in the first one with.
No. Sorry, I'm saying. So for me, actually, there was quite a few spoilers in the Christmas. Episode.
Of course, yes.
Things I would not have been aware of. And it took me a little while to get. Not a little while to get up to speed, but I had to get up to speed with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I mean, they're going to put a Christmas special, assuming you're up to date with it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Of course they are. But it detracted a bit from the story having to do that for me. But one of the issues, just looking at the story itself, that I really have, and the whole premise about these glass future beings coming in, taking people at their last moment of their life and uploading them to this thing. Of all the thousands of years that the Doctor's been floating around the galaxy and leaping about, and the amount of death he's seen, the idea that he's never ever come across even a hint of them before, I find a bit bizarre.
Maybe. But this artistic license, I mean, you've got to remember that this is a TV show that looks at, it has the ability to look at all sorts of different themes and ideas. And so if you're going to say that, then you can have to say that about the whole last 50 years of the programme, because there are plenty. Why is it when in the very first series of Doctor Who, when they land on Skaro and the Doctor meets the Daleks, he's not familiar with them at all? If we're going to go down that one, because he talks about the Time War much later on and how the Daleks have always been a big enemy of the Time Lords. He's a Time Lord and gone to Skaro and never even heard of them. It's artistic light. It's a television program.
Yes,
it's going to have inconsistencies at times.
There is that. It just, I mean, I'm not saying it ruined the whole thing for me. It bugged me a little bit.
Maybe. What I quite liked about it though was the revelation of there's no big nasty master plan to. It's not a trap. It's not something nasty at all. So
but doesn't that make a nice change in a way?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
What did you guys? What did you think about the montage of the Doctors?
That was
when they were in that room with the when Bill Potts came back. Yeah, that. What did you think?
It's been done quite a few times though, with the montages. I like them, and I think the best time they've done that sort of thing was in The Name of the Doctor. That was quite. I really liked that one. Because they tried to work it in really well and really acknowledge the previous series in a way that had not really been touched on, certainly in the Rusty Davies era. Yeah, they shown little bits in a similar way the montage that Helen's talking about now. But that episode really brought it to the forefront and say, look, this is definitely connected. These aren't two separate series, it's one continual one. You've got to accept the history of this programme. Not that you'd have to go back and watch it, you'd have to like it, but you've got to accept that it isn't canon. So seeing it again was all right, it was nice, but I kind of felt, we've done this. Flashes back occasionally are all right, but there seems to be quite a lot of it recently. Let's leave that be. Let's move forward off from that. I know what you're saying, that it's the last moments of those individual Doctors coming back again, but I think it was done more elegantly in The Name of the Doctor.
So, favourite moments from the Christmas special, Sean?
Just little things, really. Not one big particular thing. Seeing the old TARDIS set again, which they had left over from Adventure in Time and Space, and also from the end of Series 9. Obviously, just using it as much as possible, but why not? It's nice to see it again.
Classic.
Absolutely, nice to see it again. David Bradley's performance, brilliant. Just little, and Capaldi doing a great performance, and his ending good. It was a little bit David Tennant-y in terms of what they did for David Tennant's last episode. I felt like it was a big bowing out in the same way that had been, and they had to destroy TARDIS again. I was hoping they weren't going to destroy it again, because
it seems to be a theme now for some reason. But I think they've got to destroy it so you can have a new one.
That's what I'm saying. I'm a bit tired of them doing it. Just in the classic series, it adapted slightly over time. And there were other console rooms. I think Tom Baker went to one which looked a bit rubbish. But there we are.
But isn't the concept that the control room of the TARDIS reflects the Doctor that's in existence at the time?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. No, because John Pertwee's one was dreadful, and he hardly ever used one at all because he was maybe
trapped, wasn't he?
And on the occasions that it did come back, it didn't look particularly good.
I'm thinking more on the recent sort of Eccleston onwards.
Well, Eccleston and Tennant had the same one.
Mm-hmm.
The one that the first one that what's his name, Matt Smith had was dreadful. I thought it just didn't look. Yeah, it looked big on the inside, but it just looked a bit clumsy in terms of the layout. And I much preferred the one that they did in the latter part of Matt Smith's tenure, and then into Capaldi's. That one seemed much more suitable. I just don't think it's just them to sell more toys. To be honest, I know that sounds a bit cynical, but I'm just a bit. Keep it. I just hope they don't go overboard and do something really stupid with it. That's all.
It's a bit interesting to see. Helen, your favourite moments from it?
Aside, probably, yeah. As I say, I aside from the Christmas ceasefire section, which I really, really enjoyed. There's not one particular moment that stood out for me in that sense. But what I really liked about this episode, what I really enjoyed, was the special effects. I loved the snow that just went still, and with them sort of brushing it to the side and walking through it, and I liked the morphing of William Hartnell into David Bradley.
Yeah. And
then the morphing back when he had his regeneration. So yeah, for me there was a lot of areas where I was sort of watching it and thinking, wow, the budget has been very well spent in this episode. And yeah, so as I say, I was more impressed, I think, by the visuals rather than one or two individual scenes.
Okay.
You're quite right. There was one.
And although I have to say, sorry, just thinking about it, I have to say, because I know we're going to talk about it anyway, but I was very, very excited and very pleased to see Jodie when she finally appeared on the screen and her first words.
I couldn't make out her words. I know she said something. I couldn't make out what she said.
Oh, she said, "Oh, brilliant."
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not much.
No,
it was just the fact that you just caught the twang of her accent and you just got to see her for the first time. It was like, oh, hey.
I'm keen to see what she'll do. I think she might go down a similar sort of, slightly more David Tennant sort of line, being quite a bit more boisterous. After somebody like Peter Capaldi, who's been quite more dour and more. He has eccentric moments, but not a huge amount. I think that Jodie will do a bit more of a David Tennant, Tom Baker sort of eccentricity, sort of eccentric feel to the Doctor rather. And,
I hope so.
I think that will suit it really well, and yeah.
Can I say, on the subject of Jodie Whittaker, right, I have to say, I really seriously think, I don't know if this is Moffat's doing or what, but they really dropped the fucking ball, I think, personally.
I see.
Well, she regenerates into the Jodie Whittaker Doctor. She presses one button and the TARDIS goes into crash. Now, is that not playing into the hands of the misogynist, or instantly say, oh, see, woman driver?
I think that's also what happened though with I might be misremembering this, but I think that also happened when Matt Smith first became the Doctor as well.
The TARDIS was in the process of crashing, or before he regenerated.
I'd have to watch the Christmas episode again because from what I remember, it was.
No, the TARDIS was actually in flight. She presses a button and it all goes to itself.
Was it in flight though? Because Capaldi's Doctor just regenerated and half destroyed parts of it because of his very powerful regeneration or something, just like David Tennant's one. And so that was probably, I would have thought, caused the crash, and she was probably trying to do something to.
It was definitely the case that it was level. she pressed a button and the whole thing lurches, and that's what threw her out the door.
I'd have to really watch it.
I have to say, I didn't pick up on that myself.
Yeah.
I thought that perhaps in her sort of glee at being back, if you like, as the 13th Doctor, that she may have just accidentally hit something and then it did what it did. But I have to say, I didn't. It wasn't something that I went, oh, hang on a minute, that seems a little bit off. But I have to say, one of the things that I am concerned about with the new series is I'm wondering how much emphasis the scriptwriters, if any, will put on the fact that the Doctor realises now that they have taken a female form.
That's true.
And because I would like it if they don't make anything of it whatsoever, because that would be in keeping with the fact that it's a Time Lord and it doesn't matter, gender is not an issue here. But you can just see it being the case whereby, as the Doctors have been previously, where they're fascinated by their new incarnation, you know, so they're always looking at themselves going, oh, wow, look, I look like this now. You can just see the scriptwriters maybe nudging in some, oh, I didn't have this on my chest before, or, you know, and if they do too much of that, I think that will be almost sort of giving the haters an incentive to hate.
That's the danger, of course. I agree with what you're saying there, Helen, I really do. One thing I wanted to very quickly on, just backtracking a little bit here, was something else you said earlier, Helen, about the effects that was in the Christmas episode. Yeah, they were great and everything, and the morphing between William Hartnell and David Bradley, and the thing is, it was all given out in the trailer beforehand, and it's kind of a shame that all the best bits were already out in the Christmas trailer. They didn't really save very much of it, apart from that last bit, as you say, going back into the episode, the last parts of the 10th Planet, see the regeneration again. What I admired about that, though, was the this can sound like a really odd thing to say, but was the changing of aspect ratio. Because of course the old footage is the right size for the old-fashioned televisions. Of course, we got much wider.
4:3 to 16:9. Yeah,
they did that in a really smooth way. I thought it worked. It didn't jar at all. It felt quite normal.
I absolutely loved the opening where it said previously on Doctor Who, and you've got the William Hartnell moment. Yeah. I thought that was a lovely, because when I first saw that, I thought, oh god, I'm gonna like. Not having seen the last season, it's like, oh shit, you know, like it's either spoilers or I'm not going to get what's going on. Yeah. So to see that was actually really, really,
it was really nice. But like so what I think let down the episode was just the trailers gave away much too much. I know it was an incentive to get people to watch it, but they could have saved so much more of that.
And we knew it was going to be a nostalgic episode.
Yeah.
We knew there was going to be a regeneration. It wasn't. So I don't think there was much that they could actually give away.
No, I mean in terms of the visuals. The visuals that was quite nice and old. The effects and everything. Much too much of it, I thought, was done in the given away in the trailer. That's the only problem I've got with it.
Yeah. One just before we close on this, one really nice moment I thought from Mark Gatiss. I would say a nice moment, and that's probably not the right word to use, but a moment of that gave me a little bit of pause was his reaction when the Doctor says about the First World War.
Yeah.
And it was, hang on, what do you mean first? You know, and he gave quite a real. Real moment, real proper acting from Mark Gatiss there.
It was good. It was really good.
Yes.
Yeah, very poignant.
Yes. So, I think that's it for another episode, isn't it? So, thank you both, and thank you for listening, of course, there at home. Our next episode is going to be on canon. We touched on this earlier, didn't we, Helen? About the Star Wars Christmas special, lest it be forgotten. So canon, who decides canon? That's be the question we'll be posing. So join us next time, and Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.